like I say, going back using history, when I was growing up in Detroit, there were three things. The society was a three-legged stool, and one of the legs that supported society was the labor union. The other was a Democratic Party, and the third was the media. Now, you're asking me about Democrats and Republicans. Well, I grew up in Detroit. I know what a Democrat is. I feel very privileged to be here in Youngstown, Ohio, with the history of the steelworkers, to be speaking about this. The people that come from Youngstown, well, those are Democrats. You go into Gary, Indiana, those are Democrats. Those are true Democrats. But when you get to the East Coast, well, those are a different breed of Democrats. Those Democrats are tied to Wall Street. If you go to Connecticut, that's where your military contractors and your insurance companies. If you go to Delaware, that's where your credit card cartels are housed. If you go down to the state of Texas, what's the difference between a Detroit Democrat or a Michigan Democrat and a Texas Democrat? Well, the last 4 wars have been started by Texans. All the oil companies are in Texas. The largest military base in the world is in Texas. Texas, the state of Texas benefits from NAFTA, from illegal labor. So, you know, when you ask me the question, what party is best suited for this, I would tell you that it was yesterday's Democratic Party, but that is no longer the case today. Where today's Democratic Party, like I say, all the power is no longer in the unions. It's in Wall Street on the East Coast, and it's in the South. So, you know, which leads me to probably maybe an independent, because like I say, I know what a Democrat is. I'm 55 years old. I grew up in Detroit, and you know, you've seen Lyndon Johnson. Well, he's a Democrat. Well, wait a minute. When Lyndon Johnson died, it was revealed that his wife was the second largest shareholder of Brown and Root. So if you look at the ideologies that exist in Texas for a Democrat, or the ideology that exists in Michigan or Indiana, Illinois, it's completely two different things. So it's you know, it's hard for me to answer that question. In fact, if you look at today's labor union and today's Democratic Party, what I can say is that it needs new life. It needs younger life to be injected into it. It's so disconnected from what it was supposed to be. I guess, to make a long story short, you know, I don't. Yeah, it would be the Democrats that would be the party that would be behind these grassroots movements. But what I see with them today is a lot of rhetoric, but I don't see a lot of action.
I'd like to take a crack at that one. I think it's a false dichotomy. And I think viewing things through the lens of Democrat and Republican parties doesn't speak to our self-interest. And oftentimes, if you've been privy to campaign language, you know, discussions or forums, or especially if you've been to party headquarters for meetings, there's a lot of party for party and politician for party talk. And the party is, it doesn't really serve our self-interest, does it? And I think, quite honestly, if it's, you know, who's the bigger boogeyman, you know, I have my thoughts on one party being not as bad as the other, but I think we have to think in terms of what's good for us and what serves our needs. And at the end of the day, the dichotomy that the Republicans and Democrats offer is not reality, and I don't really think it speaks to our self-interests. So I like to try to avoid, I don't know, I don't like putting things in those two categories. I know that they exist, but they're artificial, and they don't speak to any actual human needs. So I think that it might, I guess I'm challenging the question, actually. And I think we need to challenge that thinking all the time. There are things I personally don't agree with in the Republican Party or the Democratic Party. And that doesn't mean that I'm necessarily independent, but there are a lot of labels, and I don't think that they serve us to use them when we're talking about what we actually need in a government that works for us and represents us.
And when I think about that question, and I've been to a lot of the Gamelia actions and organizing, and they're all about going out into the different areas and organizing people and organizing money and where the power is. And I've never once heard in any of the gatherings that I've been in, what party do you belong to? That's just not a question that's important. You are who you are, so it doesn't matter whether they're Republican or Democratic or Independent. We're all here with for the same purpose. And that question, when I think back over the years that I have been with the Gamelia unit with Action of Youngstown, that question has never come up. And I've been around a lot of people, so it's not an issue that we even think about.